David Grossman there. Well, to discuss this, we have Richard Bergen, the Shadow Economic Secretary to the Treasury, and the Conservative MP, Nadhim Zahawi. Nadhim Zahawi, first of all, let's fast forward to 2019. Surprise, surprise, we've still got a budget deficit. What happens to George Osborne? Does he fall on his sword? Does he get put in Brixton?
Well, George Osborne has been very clear that we will wipe out the deficit and we will begin to run a surplus by then.
He's got form on this, of course, because he promised that in his first budget and didn't deliver it by the end of the term.
Look, you're right to say that when we came into office in 2010, we were facing some very, very serious headwinds. We were facing a Labour government that had been acted irresponsibly, that had borrowed too much,
that had never fixed,
but it never fixed the roof when the sun was shining. And we are in the process of doing that. We went to an election and we said to the public, we're halfway through the job, give us a chance to finish it, and they have done.
OK, and what if you don't
finish it? It's only responsible that this Chancellor today protects the country from the recklessness of Labour. They have a track record.
Let me just be clear on this. I seem to remember when Gordon Brown suggested it wasn't for politicians to determine, it should be enshrined in law. George Osborne called it a feeble stunt.
Well, it was, because Gordon Brown was...
What is a feeble stunt now?
Well, Gordon Brown has a very different track record to George Osborne. Gordon Brown borrowed too much when the sun was shining and didn't fix the roof. You know that because all economists, at least credible economists, not the ones that...
But what happens if you don't make it? I mean, they've put this big chimera up about, you know, it's enshrined in law and you have to deliver. What if you don't deliver?
Well, you have to act responsibly. The Charter says... in normal times, when the economy... Well, let me give you a chance.
No, I'm simply asking you. It's a straightforward scenario.
Right.
If it doesn't work, what happens?
So our policies at the moment are delivering. 31 million people are in employment. Their salaries are rising by 2.8%. Lowest unemployment in almost a decade. We're getting there. We're going to balance the books. What we want to do is protect the nation from a reckless and irresponsible Labour Party who would actually effectively throw all this away, deny the deficit, and come back and say we can borrow as much as we like. That is we want a government
to be held to account by the law.
That will be responsible. This charter will be a legacy for a responsible Chancellor, and it will protect young people for generations to come.
Let me put this to Richard Bergen. Run me your thoughts before Monday when you change your mind on this. I mean, presumably you agreed with absolutely everything Nadhim Zahawi has just said, because before Monday, you backed it.
Well, people are talking about John McDonnell's so-called U-turn, but I think people should be asking not why John McDonnell has changed his mind, but why George Osborne hasn't changed his mind.
No, hang on. I'm asking you, you backed this before
by the end of the last Parliament, he promised the deficit would have gone, but still he's pursuing the political choice of austerity, which isn't even working by his own definition, which is to get the deficit down. The deficit's predicted to be 69 billion in 2015 to 2016. It was meant to have gone by now.
So you should never have backed it in the first place before Monday. You were actually selling a false prospectus, but you all backed this before Monday.
In the last 2 weeks, various economic bodies have come forward showing that the global economic outlook isn't as positive as people might have thought, and therefore to back something like this, which restricts the freedom of a government to act, doesn't seem to make sense. And the other thing that John McDonnell made clear in the debate tonight was that he visited Redcar the other day, and it made him think when he met the people. No, but when you meet the people who have been affected by the government's ruthless austerity policies, it hardens your resolve.
Yes, and your Chief Secretary, I just want to ask you, which economic bodies were the ones that brought reports out in the last fortnight that changed your mind? What was the one that really stuck for you?
Well, for example, the IMF has revised its forecasts on growth, and John McDonnell also consulted Nobel Prize-winning economists on his new body, which is the Economic Advisory Committee.
It hasn't met for a year.
These reports are there. I think the thing is, if people don't change their view on the basis of evidence, then you should be asking them questions.
Let me just ask, if John McDonnell hadn't changed his mind, and by the way, did you know he was going to do this before Monday night?
Discussions took place at PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party, on Monday night.
So you didn't know before Monday night?
And there was a meeting of the Shadow Treasury team.
You didn't know before Monday night that John McDonnell was going to change his mind?
We had a full discussion in the Shadow Treasury team on Monday before the Parliamentary Labour Party.
Oh, so all the discussions over the last 2 weeks and his change of view and everything, you didn't know about, right? That's quite interesting. But let me just ask you, if John McDonnell hadn't changed his mind, you would have walked through the I lobby tonight, wouldn't you?
Well, I'm a disciplined comrade. I'd have followed the party line.
Yeah, and absolutely no principle because you don't believe in it.
No, that's not true. We're driven by principle. The principle that the sole test of a government cannot be just whether it gets the deficit down. It has to be other things as well.
So,
it has to be to do with jobs, whether the housing crisis is solved.
So do you disparage the 21 MPs in your party who abstained?
I was pleased that the vast majority of Labour MPs voted against Osborne's austerity charter.
And you believe the rebels were principled?
The majority of moderate Labour MPs voted against George Osborne's cuts agenda.
So what do you think about the rebels? Do you absolutely, given that you have a leader who rebelled endlessly, you think actually it was a principled stand to take by the 21 Labour MPs to abstain?
No. What they've got to understand and what people have got to understand is what's changed. And what's changed is that Jeremy Corbyn was elected on the biggest mandate a British political leader's ever had. And the mandate was clear, to be a mandate supporting anti-austerity economics, clear anti-austerity economics. And that's what we back tonight.
Nadeem Zahawi, now you don't believe in borrowing to invest?
No, there's a difference. So if I am buying a new combined harvester, that is an investment. But if I double mortgage the farm and I can't pay my mortgage and then take out 7 credit cards and max them all out, that's not investment. That is Labour recklessness.
But sometimes you have to borrow to invest to get a return. For example, if you want to clear up the housing crisis, you have to borrow massively to deal with that, and you're not going to do it.
No, but the Charter talks about long-term investment. This is being responsible. This is a Chancellor who is delivering for this country. He will be remembered for this Charter for generations to come, because there'll be generations who want to protect themselves from a reckless Labour Party who will throw this. They are deficit deniers. The reason for this is John McDonnell doesn't believe in actually paying down the debt. He doesn't believe that we have a problem with the deficit. This is the problem.
If it was as serious as you were making out with respect, then George Osborne and the Conservative government would have given longer than an hour and a half to discuss it in Parliament. The fact it was only discussed for an hour and a half shows it was a cheap political stunt.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed.